Welcome to the Heavy Sweater Podcast. My name is John King. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, this is the Heavy Sweater Podcast, a deep dive into the beginnings of local Australian musicians and bands of the heavy variety. And we're back to our normal format this week. This is a short one, but it's quality over quantity around here. So this week's guest, we've got Matt Daly from the Western Australian band Sedative. We go into Matt's time in the Australian scene and his journey to today with Sedative and the killer stuff they're doing, like their song Cough Medicine being featured on Hardcore Keem. And once again, we're going into emo music and how fucking sick it is. And Sedative have a new song coming out on the 16th of September, so be on the lookout for that. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, and if you're listening to it after Wednesday, it's out now, so go find that on all streaming platforms. And with all that being said, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey brother, what's going on?
Not much. We'll just get straight into everything and like your journey through heavy music. And what's like the first sort of heavy-ish band you remember hearing?
Yeah, cool man. Thanks for having us.
It's all good.
Man, honestly, I used to listen to a lot of like punk rock in high school and stuff, but probably my first heavy foray, I would say, is something along the lines of like Fall Out Boy.
Okay, cool.
I mean, as minimalist as it is, it's probably the first like heavy and harsher vocals, like the very small amount of like screams that they have. But
Yeah. So like the emo stage is like the first thing for you. Fuck
yeah, I was emo as hell in high school and never grew out of it.
Yeah, fuck yeah, no, same man. Yeah, don't care if I lost my hair, emo still fucks hard.
That's it, boy. That's it. That's literally like still what I like bang hardest with today, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Sick. Cool, man. And then from like listening to like Fall Out Boy and like getting into your emo phase, where does like picking up an instrument or vocals, because you play drums as well as do vocals in two bands at the moment. So like which comes first for you?
Well, I started playing drums when I was about 8. And that was like well before getting into any form of realm of heavy music. So I played drums for a really long time and got kind of poached out of high school into my first like heavier band.
Okay, sick.
And I played drums in a band called Winterfold. We like went around Australia and played a fair bit nationally.
Yeah.
That was probably my first big entrance into playing playing in bands.
Okay.
And in the last maybe 5 years or so ago, I thought I'd give vocals a crack, man.
Fuck yeah, sick.
It's kind of what I always felt like I should have been doing a bit more so.
Cool.
So dealt with being really shit at it for a few years, and I feel like I at least gotten a little bit better now.
Yeah, for sure. Fuck yeah. Well, the stuff you're doing now is fucking sick. So like, as long as like you're doing what makes you happy, because like I've played drums in bands before and it's a thankless fucking job.
Yeah.
So I think like,
man, I got a little bit tired of the grind that drums entailed, and it's like drums is like so sought after as well, which I find a little bit monotonous in a way. It's like I kind of I'm fucking 28 now. I've played drums for 20 years. It's like it's a little bit old at this point, if that makes sense, you know, especially when I've kind of lost a lot of the drive to be doing it. So I feel like these days I only really want to play drums for bands that I like either have really good friends in or am like really passionate about the music we're creating. So like for me, that's just not really what's happening for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. I fully like am the same way. Been playing drums since I was 8 as well, before I got into heavy music, and then like like playing in bands like through high school and stuff, and then getting into the scene and then being like, oh fuck, this isn't all it's cracked up to be being a drummer. And then like
that's it, man. That's
getting super jaded about it. But
that's literally exactly how I feel.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's just like someone will ask me to play drums for their band, and I'm like, man, you want me to fucking play drums for your band?
Yeah. No, I fully get that. Cool, man. So like when you get into that music, you're already playing drums, and like what's the first drummer that you like see or hear about that you're like, fuck yeah, I want to do that too?
In regards to playing heavy drums, you mean?
Yeah.
Probably Aaron from Under Oath, man. That was like my first.
Fuck
that was probably my first like time I was like, wow, drums can be fucking awesome for this kind of music, you know?
Yeah, fuck yeah. What a drummer as well.
yeah, that kind of coincides with how like heavily I was into like emo shit and kind of branching into more and more heavy music. That was probably my biggest exposure when I was going through high school and shit.
Fuck yeah, Under Oath is so sick, and I feel like only now they're getting the appreciation they deserve.
Well, they're one of those bands that kind of people like sentimentally look back on, and I feel like they value them so much higher nowadays than at the time when they were most prominent.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is very unfortunate because they had like two of the best albums of that genre of music, and no one really gave a shit.
Yeah, and now everybody's like, they're only chasing safety and Define the Great Line of the best albums ever.
Exactly right. Literally exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't have said no one gave a shit at the time, because they definitely did, but there's so much like
there's so much
more highly valued these days.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, fuck yeah. And do you play anything other than drums and vocal? Like, do vocals?
I play a little bit of everything, man. I've always had a bit of a dabble in everything. I played bass for a little bit of time for an earlier iteration of one of my other bands. I've played a little bit of guitar here and there, mainly for some like lighter kind of acoustic shit.
Okay, cool. Fuck yeah.
I play a lot of ukulele just in my spare time, just because it's funny and fucking a bit of fun.
Sick, that's so sick.
So yeah, I kind of always had a dabble at everything, but mostly drums and vocals these days, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's excellent. And then what, like, is Winterfold the first band you're in, or is like Hope is for Heroes like the first thing you do?
How the fuck do you know about that?
I did some research.
No shit, dude. I noticed that you liked like one of my old band's Closet Space. I noticed that just earlier.
Oh yeah.
You liked that. I was like, how's this motherfucker tracking us down?
Yeah, I was like, I'm finding it all.
Yeah. So basically, Winterfold was like there was a lot of different iterations of Winterfold and previous names, different members along the journey. Yeah. So like Hope is for Heroes was probably like still loosely Winterfold with a bit of a different lineup, but very younger version of Winterfold, if that makes sense. So I was in a band with two other guys, Brenton Hole and Todd Meekins. I was in a band with those guys since I was 15.
Okay. Crazy.
And we were in probably about 5 or 6 different bands that kind of had different members attached to them, but that same 3-member core was always prevalent in those bands all the way up until Winterfold.
Okay, sick.
So Hopes of Heroes was probably my first like gigging band, if that makes sense. Like that I was actually playing shows in and doing things in, and then that eventually turned into Winterfold after a few lineup changes and things like that, and we kind of started fresh back then.
Okay.
And that ended up being the beast that Winterfold was, yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I feel like it's best to have like that first gigging band that like you can make all the mistakes and like this is how the scene actually works, this is how being in a band actually works. So then when you get to the next thing, you're just like, you know what to not do.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've been playing in bands for 13 years now, and like I don't think I'd have, not to say I'm amazing at the local music industry, but I think I have a pretty good grasp on what works and what doesn't. And I don't think I would have nearly that amount of knowledge if I wasn't in a fucking terrible band for the first 5 years of my career.
Sure, definitely, man. Yeah.
You've got to do all the dumb shit that you do in your first couple of bands to make it like any amount easy in a band that you're trying to properly push, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like just to flesh out all that early day shit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you know what's cringe on social media, you know what not to do live, you know, just all the simple stuff that comes with just being in bands all your life, you know. Steering
away from the watch this space posting.
Yeah, straight up, man. I mean, we've all been guilty of it.
Any for sure.
That's never done that, but yeah. I mean, I think even recent bands, I've probably had that kind of stuff happen in them, unfortunately. But one of those things you come to learn.
Definitely, it's just part of being in a band for sure.
Yeah.
Sick.
Man, I'm blown away that you fucking knowing all these bands. Oh shit, I used to be in.
Yeah, man. I'd like to do a little bit of research beforehand, like of like previous bands, just so the conversation can like go as deep as we can go with it.
Right, yeah, you hell caught me off guard with that, man. I was not expecting that.
Sick. Cool. And then from Neverfold, is it like straight into Lessfaith?
For Winterfold, was it, sorry?
Yeah, like straight after you finish in Winterfold, do you just move straight into Lessfaith, or is what you're doing now with Sedative like the thing that happens straight after that?
Well, so at the end of Winterfold, we were kind of we were all a little bit done with music at that point, to be honest.
Okay, yeah.
we were all kind of doing, like, a couple of the guys, you know, were getting tied down in relationships, having kids and things like that. So it was kind of getting a bit difficult to be in a full-time touring band, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, we kind of, like, made the decision to just give it a rest for a time.
Okay.
And I was actually playing games professionally at the time. That's kind of where my concentration lied. So that was where I was at.
Fuck yeah.
And then we kind of had a few years break where, like, none of us really did anything musically.
Okay, yeah.
And then we kind of, well, I started, it was originally called Grenade Brain. I started that as like a little side project.
Yeah.
To that other band, Closet Space, that you mentioned before.
Oh, yeah.
Me personally, I started, like, slowly working my way back into music, just with, like, a little bit less of an intense approach.
Okay, yeah. Just like part-time.
Yeah, more so just, like, doing it for the actual joy of doing it, more so than it being your entire free time absorber.
Yeah. Your existence.
So I think Closet Space was my first actual dive back into music.
Okay, cool.
Which was a pretty strange band in retrospect. It wasn't really blatantly heavy or anything. It was kind of like, I don't even know how I would describe it. It's kind of like an emo band more than anything.
Fuck yeah, just back to your roots, man.
Yeah, that's it. And I got one of the Winterfold guys on board with it, and then started Grenade Brain as like a side project, which Grenade Brain would be what eventually turned into Sedative, you know, in very recent times. But that's what it kind of started out at, as was like a little side project.
And now it's like just picking up steam.
Well, another similar situation, as I mentioned, what happened with Winterfold, we kind of through the course of Grenade Brain, we had a fair amount of different members change hands and things like that. And by the time we wanted to launch Sedative, it was more so the decision, like, we just need a fresh start. There's different people in the band now. We're kind of taking it in a different direction musically, going for more of like a slam approach.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like time for something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Especially, like, I'm not like overly confident on how the Western Australian scene is, but I feel like it's very close. Like, I've been to Western Australia a couple of times for, like, when I was younger, I used to drag race, but like, other than like Perth and Rockingham, it seems like everything else outside of that is so far away that, like, the scene probably only is in the city.
Well, pretty much, man. I mean, I think that the general scene in Perth kind of is pretty fast spread, I will admit. Like, even bands from like Bunbury are generally associated as like Perth bands.
Okay, yeah.
So pretty much, if you're from WA within like reach of the Perth region, you're a Perth band. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's like, from like just being in the scene and like tumbling around, lineup changes, fresh start, just new coat of paint on the same sort of band.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, but there's also, I think, especially in this scene, being as far separated from the rest of Australia as we are, you've kind of, once people kind of gather a certain impression of you, you're kind of embedded with that impression for the rest of that band per se.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the nature of Grenade Brain and the amount of times we were changing members, starting again in that band, I think it kind of tarnished our reputation pretty heavily, especially with some of the members that we had on board over the journey.
Yeah.
So I think Sedative was also like, it was refreshing to start again, and it was also a little bit necessary to kind of just start fresh from scratch again.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like that from how you're describing it. Well, that's sick, man, because Sedative is fucking tough as.
Yeah, man. I think we've I think it was a wise decision, honestly, because the reception that we received from Sedative starting again and just putting out like starting as like a completely new band, just one single out. The reception we've seen has been fantastic, honestly. Not to, you know, I really don't intend to come across as arrogant or anything that. But like, it really has been nothing but positive stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think
which is so nice to see.
That's fucking sick. I think like the way Australian music's going now, especially in the heavy scene, is like there's either the pop punk type bands, and then there's just like the straight up like balls to the wall heavy bands.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the direction we wanted to steer the ship in with the band, and that's kind of what one of the other driving factors was starting Sedative was. I think also, like, having the plethora of experience in the band and the different amount of the different people in the band and the experiences that we've all had independently, I think we kind of knew how to do things right from the start, if that makes sense. Like obviously in those previous bands we'd mentioned, there's also always a slow start, making mistakes to begin with, whereas with Sedative we've got every single mapped out. We've got our whole next year pretty much mapped out ahead of us. Like we've put all the money into everything. We're doing this correct from the get-go. You know what I mean? I think that's really made a really gargantuan impact to the way that we've been looked at as a band.
Yeah, definitely. Leading with your best and biggest foot forward.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's fucking sick. And you guys have like a new when this comes out, which will be the 2 days after we're recording this. Thursday, your new single comes out.
Thursday. No Hard Feelings released this Thursday, correct.
Fuck yeah. And do you want to like dive into like the meaning behind that and the recording process of that and like how you guys go about recording everything? Because nowadays, like you don't necessarily have to spend the money to go into a studio. It's pretty easy to do it all at home.
Well, that's right, man. We kind of what we're doing at the moment is I'm just being completely honest. We're just experimenting with what's on offer to us at the moment. Like we're obviously planning to do a full length or at least an EP. In the next probably 6 months or so. Yeah. So we're kind of experimenting right now what we can get for what kind of options are available to us and what gives us the best product at the end. So this single, No Hard Feelings, Cough Medicine, the next single after that that's booked in, they're all with completely different people. So we're kind of trying our hand, as I mentioned, with different producers, different mixing and mastering, just completely different writing approaches, even just to see what works best for the products we're trying to put out.
Definitely, that sounds sick.
So yeah, it's been really interesting, honestly, trying. Like literally doing one single with one producer and then one mix and master, and then going to a completely different producer and a completely different mix and master for the next single. It's like, it's really interesting how drastically things change in between that.
Yeah, and I guess that would like help you guys grow as a band and as a unit and see where you guys feel the most comfortable, whether it is like comfortable or if it's not comfortable at all. Because like some bands thrive in like not being comfortable.
Well, that's correct. And that's like a lot of my personal recording experience I've done with a very dear friend of mine, Jay Huxtable. I've spent a lot of time, like, because he was previously in Grenade Brain when we were a band in Grenade Brain. He recorded most of Winterfold's releases when we were in when that was a band going at the time. So I've spent a lot of time like producing and working with Jay as a musician. This whole Sedative thing has been kind of like branching out and trying to get a little bit uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like I've kind of always known how I'm gonna do vocals with Jay, how we're gonna record stuff, how we're gonna do that. So it's kind of been nice to put myself in a less familiar situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That's fucking sick. I find the same thing with like my current project of like, I'm not used to writing and playing guitars for something. So I'm pushing my boundaries as far as I humanly can and making myself uncomfortable with my playing to be like, right, this is where this band needs to go. I'm going to try and get there.
Yeah. And it makes a massive difference, right? I'm sure that you've noticed yourself. Yeah. So like I was also like I've been very comfortable recording vocals with Jay, our past producer, all these years, and it's like doing vocals with someone else was like very alien to me at first. But I think it's also kind of like opened me up and like made me look at things a little bit differently, and I think that's kind of just expanded the way I work as a vocalist, the way I record as a vocalist. You know, I think it's just made things for the better. I'm taking knowledge from a plethora of different producers and musical people, and I'm applying that to what I do vocally, which I think the difference in my journey as a vocalist has been pretty massive over the years. I mean, personally speaking, at least. Yeah,
fuck yeah. That's so sick.
I listened back to like the first thing I did vocally was Grenade Brain. That was the first time I entered into just being a vocalist. And I listened back to the first Grenade Brain release that was fucking recorded my guitarist at the time's fucking house in his wardrobe. Like, I listen back to that these days, and I'm like, man, I thought this was good at the time. It's really interesting to hear like how much the sound has evolved, you know.
Yeah, and like that comes along with technology as well. Like even every now and then I'll go back and I'll listen to like old Tomb of Doom stuff, and I'm like, Fuzz Slam is such a fucking banger, but it sounds like absolute dog shit.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. It's funny how much you associate with like shitter quality releases as well. I find I like some of the like favorite albums are such shit mixed and masters on them, but it's like it's kind of like home, you know what I mean?
It kind of helps like with the vibe of the release.
That's right. It like hits different hearing that shit quality recording. Like I think one of the biggest examples is I don't know how familiar you are with like Dance Gavin Dance and like earlier Dance Gavin Dance albums. Like the quality sucks, man. You know what I mean? Downtown Battle Mountain, it's like, I mean, it's so raw and rough around the edges, but I think that's what makes it so perfect for the sound that it is. You know what I mean? I think it's a perfect example.
Yeah, and then like you listen to what Johnny Craig ended up doing, even as far as now, and it's like,
and it's so crisp and amazing.
Yeah, but still, like, take me back to the "I Still Feel Her" part 1 and 2. That shit fucking hits different.
Boy, we are vibing on another level right now. All the shit that we listen to.
Yeah, man.
Speaking my language right now. Boy.
Fuck yeah. Sick. Cool. And then like, how's the Perth scene been like during COVID? Because like Queensland, it's been pretty fucking hectic, and Sydney and Victoria, like New South Wales, Victoria, it's been dog shit. But how's it been with you guys?
I think we've been the most. I think we've been the best off in Australia. I think it's fair to say.
Okay.
We've like obviously we suffered lockdowns early in the early days of COVID. Excuse me. Like we had a fairly large lockdown at the same time as pretty much everyone else did, and then outside of like a little slip up here and there for like maybe a 1 or 2 weeker or a 5-day lockdown, we've actually been all right for the most part. You know?
Sick.
Like shows have been going pretty strong for. I mean, I'd say about a year now. You know, shows have been going since at least the end of last year. They've been pretty consistent. Outside of, as I said, those little hiccups. Yeah. Obviously, having like bands from other states has been what we've missed out on as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
For example, we were supposed to be supporting Vengeance. Last month, I think it was. Okay. That was postponed twice.
Fuck.
And eventually cancelled in the end because they copped another lockdown and just couldn't come over here.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think shows have been. I think it's kind of rallied together for like local shows. You know what I mean? I think everyone's kind of appreciated what maybe in the past people would probably look at as like, oh, just another shitty local show. It's People kind of really appreciate that now. It's like a lot more people get around it and get involved, and like we're having like massive turnouts for like a strictly local band lineup.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Sick. That's so sick. I love that shit.
It's really, really cool. I mean, it's obviously pioneered by a few people in the scene, which are keeping it alive. And we've tried to help as much as we can with the people that we're associated with. And it's looking really good, man, especially, as I said, with even touring bands being a problem in the past. Like it's starting to happen again now. We're playing with Falsifer next month. Cool. Finally, like a band's coming over here. Okay, heavy band.
Sick.
So they're obviously from Adelaide, which hasn't been too bad lockdown-wise, and they're finally coming over, and we're supporting them in October. We're supposed to be going to Adelaide ourselves next month.
Fuck yeah.
Which I mean, it's finally becoming a possibility again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is great. I think like having this little bit of time of like no bands coming in, as much as it's shit for like touring bands and that being how you make a lot of money being in a band, it's like people can appreciate what's in their own backyard. And
that's right,
and watch the scene grow instead of just waiting for them to get big and then be like, oh, I remember when I saw them one time at a local show, and it's like you could be seeing them every time they play and supporting them the entire time.
That's right. There is also a couple of unfortunate cases where like I know that there is a few bands out there that are like refusing to play shows, and they're like waiting for when shows from like touring bands kick back on, and they want to just wait for those opportunities instead of playing shows now, which I think it's a little bit unfortunate that there is bands doing that. But for the most part, I mean, I think it's obviously a minority that's doing it. But
for sure.
most of the prominent bands, at least in Perth, for example, are playing like pretty consistently at the moment, which is awesome, you know.
Well, yeah, it's like the joy and love of playing live music.
Well, that's right, yeah. So we obviously, with touring as well, that was like one of the things when we started Sedative, we were going to be doing from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which obviously hurt us a little bit. We were like, we were going to start touring pretty much as soon as we had a couple of singles out.
Yeah.
And obviously we've been restricted in that sense to only being able to play in Perth.
Yeah.
And we've been loving it, man. You know, we try and jump on pretty much whatever we can get on at the moment, especially with the state that the scene is in.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you can obviously overplay, which is not a good thing, but like we've been playing maybe like once a month at the moment, and it's fucking awesome, man.
That's a decent pace.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think like the scene, like the Australian scene on the local level was so heavily like destroyed by like when festivals would come through, like Soundwave kind of just killed off the local scene where big bands wouldn't come through unless it was with Soundwave.
Yeah, that's right.
So then like these smaller local bands couldn't get the exposure of a big international touring band.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately that's just somehow people go to shows.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I noticed that they have started opening up even little like touring festivals. They started coming back over here as well. I'm not sure if I think it's called the Aftermath Festival. We're actually playing it in November, which is like the first festival. It's like I think it's a festival sideshow.
Cool.
But, yeah, it's like the first festival that I've seen make it to, like, it's apparently going all around Australia. So
hectic. Wow.
I don't know how well they'll go in some of the other states, but like the Perth one, I don't see any reason it wouldn't go ahead for November. Like we're due to be playing that early November, which would be awesome. You know?
Yeah, fuck yeah. And if it's like just Australian bands and it's like people are getting out and seeing what's around in their own country.
Yeah, that's right. It's really cool to see that starting to kick off again, you know?
Yeah, fuck yeah. And now I want to talk to you about Cough Medicine being featured on Hardcore Keem, because that dude fucking rips, and his video on that song is so sick.
Man, I love Keem so much, dude. Yeah. I've been watching that guy. Like he's a really big fan of another band that I'm like pretty obsessed with as well, Soulkeeper.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I found out about Keem like a fair few years ago, because he's like absolutely froth Soulkeeper as well.
Fuck yeah.
And I mean, going from that and watching him all this time and then seeing him like throw down to a song I put out is pretty fucking awesome.
For sure, man.
Yeah, just being like a genuine fan of his content and then seeing him rip into ours is always fucking awesome, you know?
Yeah, fuck yeah. And he's like giving bands of any size, anywhere, the exposure that they deserve based on how bullshit heavy they are.
That's right. Yeah, he kind of like he kind of just puts on good shit, and that's like you don't really see anything miss from Keem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is refreshing. Like, I think he's actually spinning No Hard Feelings, from what I've been told as well.
Fuck yeah!
So
sick.
That should be obviously after the release day, so it'll probably be in the not too distant future. But that's what I've been told. Yeah, he should be spinning No Hard Feelings, man.
Fuck yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, I just want to see him drop kick that fucking dummy to a song.
Yes. As soon as he gets up, I'm like, that dummy's going to cop it. Like, he's going to feed that dummy. Fuck yeah, man. Well, thanks for doing the podcast.
No worries at all, man. Thank you so much for having us, bro. I really appreciate it.
All good, man. We'll get into your top 5 favorite bands, and then we'll hit socials for everything you're doing and your personals, and then we'll get out of here.
Cool, man. You want to hear my top 5 bands?
Yes, of all time.
When you usually do this, do you like strictly say bands or?
So in the very beginning, like I wouldn't tell people. Like I let you know beforehand so you could prepare, because it rattles people. And there were some times where people would like throw in a couple of like a scene together, like early 2000s metalcore or like grindcore and shit.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So, I mean, I have this stuff, like, I've prepped this stuff in the past because I've done, like, interviews with, like, Wall of Sound and a couple other things. Man, I don't, like, really, like, that's the one strange thing about me musically. I've played in heavy bands all my life, but I don't, like, honestly really listen to that much heavy music.
Yeah.
I definitely listen to, like, a degree of heavy music, but it's, like, not what I slam on the regular.
It's not sustainable, man.
Well, I mean, I've kind of like fucking heard it all, man. In the same
for sure.
Like obviously here and there you find some refreshing stuff, but like it's a pretty done to death thing. Well, not done to death. That probably sounds a little bit harsh, but like it's very hard to find something that really hits different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really have it in order, but like my top fucking groups are like, I don't know if you listen to like Brockhampton. That's probably like my Brockhampton, like my top group of all time, man. That's like that shit bangs so hard. Outside of that, man, I listen to like Fall Out Boy, 1975. A hell of a lot of Prince, man.
Sick.
And it's probably a little bit obscure, but Koi, man. I don't know if you listen to Koi.
Oh, what are they like?
It's one dude. He's like it's like hyper pop, man. Like yeah. I don't know how to like. It's so hard having like these conversations when I'm the only one that I know that likes this shit.
I'll check him out for sure.
I wish I had friends that liked this shit music, but it's like only me.
Yeah, that's sick. I'm kind of the same with like trash rap, like Riff Raff and Dirt Nasty.
Oh, hard, dude. I get down so hard with that shit.
Yeah, but no one else I know.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, yeah, like no one else I know listens to it, so I'm just like on my own little island, being like, "Yeah, Riff Raff's so fucking sick."
Or like people listen to it like ironically, and you're just like, "Oh yeah,
I'm like, "Oh, what a joke!" Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, I still fucking Fall Out Boy, like one of my top bands of all time, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fucking, I love Prince, man. Prince is like probably one of my biggest musical influences in general, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I've kind of always taken inspiration, even in the limited way you can, into heavy music. I think I've kind of always drawn inspiration from someone like Prince.
Just like the creative freedom.
Well, yeah, just, man, Prince was just so revolutionary at the time. Yeah. And I think still, not so much revolutionary today, I guess, but like it still holds up for what it is at the time.
Definitely,
like, there's no, like, who can you tell me is like Prince? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no one.
Like Prince is Prince, and that's it, man. You know,
definitely one of a kind.
Yeah, man, I fucking love the 1975 as well. That's probably, in regards to actual bands, that's probably like my top band.
Okay, cool.
I fucking love it. That band rules, man.
Sick. I've seen their name around, and like based on like how they look, I'm like, I think I know what they sound like, but I've never actually given them a listen.
Yes, I mean it's kind of just like alt rock, man.
Okay, cool.
I don't even know what else I'd explain it as. Like just like British alt rock.
Okay, to me they give up the vibe British. Of like they sound like the Wombats kind of, but not really.
Well, I mean, there's definitely probably an inspiration there, but I wouldn't say they sound like the Wombats. Okay, they're kind of just like fuck, I've never thought how to describe 1975. They're just like chill, weird alt rock, man. With like, they do a lot of really cool stuff lyrically as well, which I find really interesting.
Sick.
They're kind of not afraid to just like be hell on the nose about things, which I think is kind of cool. I feel like I try and do a lot of that myself, which is
just like being real with people.
Yeah, so many bands try to be, you know, metaphorical and like speaking like certain ways in their lyrics, whereas 1975 are just like straight up just crass as shit. Yeah. And just like laying out how it is, which I really dig that. I think that's cool as fuck.
Sick. Well, I'll give them a spin, see how they sound.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
Fuck yeah, cool, man. And then socials,
man. I'm pretty sure we are Sedative AU on Insta and Facebook.
Cool.
We do have a website that pretty much centralizes everything, which is sedativeband.com.
Excellent.
That's got literally every song we've ever put out, every press release we've got to put out, every video we've got out and is coming out, merch, everything, man. So sedativeband.com is pretty much like the central location to go for our stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for doing the podcast again.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, man. We really appreciate it.
All good. And check out No Hard Feelings on Thursday, the 16th of September.
That's it, my man. Thank you so much for that.
It's all good, man. Done for another week. Huge thanks to Matt for doing the podcast and the guys at Sedative for reaching out to be on. I'll definitely be in touch with those guys and we'll get some more of the members of that band on the pod and spread the local scene love to all of Australia, not just Brisbane. But yeah, killer band. Go check them out wherever you listen to music. And the 16th of September, their new track, No Hard Feelings, comes out. So go get around it. And I know in the podcast, Dance Gavin Dance comes up and I mention Emarosa songs, but I realized after recording this that I had mixed those two bands up, but they're basically the same thing because Johnny Craig was in both of those bands. So same, but different. And if you like what I'm doing over here with the podcast, share it, tell a friend, subscribe on YouTube and follow it. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Heavy Sweater Podcast. And also this motherfucking Thursday, the 16th of September, my band Shokan will be playing The Bright Side in support of Isolation to launch their new EP, This World Grows Cold, alongside Salt Money, Entrapment, and Harbour the Code. Doors are at 7:30 and we're on at 8, so get the fuck around it. Support local fucking music. Be a legend. But yeah, come back next week for a new episode. Thanks.